So we're going to do a really challenging thing together today. And we're going to continue our talk about gold and metallics. And I'm going to turn this study that was referenced off of a stone little statuette artifact, but the student obviously wanted to turn it into gold for today's study. What I did on Portrait Studio is I built a couple of the models we have in there. Some are high detail models. One of them is of a dragon. The other is of a sphinx, but I'm just going to move the light around a lot today to show you guys how to pull off a golden feel while having detail. So I'm going to try to do that for this, but in order for us to do that with that piece, we have to get rid of those lines because those lines aren't actually doing you any good. You're inspired to have lines because of the sculpture. So you can copy these sculptures, but you again remember at the end of the day, reflective objects don't have that line. What they have are light, dark, light patterns and the grooves in between and a lot of carrying of reflection, tons. So I'm using a local value on the object to bring up all of its shadows out. And we're losing a bit of detail doing this, which may cause you to panic. What we have left behind are the highlights you did have, which is important because now it looks more like gold than before. And they have a reflection on the inside and on the outside. So you're no longer drawing the line. You're highlighting around what the line defined. Had this been made of stone or some matte material, the lines can't be possible because they're not possible because there's so much reflection going on. There's no ambient occlusion or not much ambient occlusion on a gold surface. So this is really reflective, and I've really raised the bloom. Again, I did that on purpose just so we can have something to reference. And right now, again, I don't really care where the light is coming from so much. I just care about making these grooves look three-dimensional. And I do that by outlining the outline with highlighter lines. Okay, so on the inside and the outside, leaving the peak of the contour with that small little shadow value. The only reason why something like this is intimidating is because you are so used to using the line to define things. There is a healthy relationship with the line, but it has to be respectful in that line, you know its stylistic presence, you know what that line is offering. But there is no healthy relationship with a line if you're trying to render. So what I'm doing is I could darken that far side of the piece now without worrying too much about losing on the feeling of the gold. It'll still look like gold, especially if you want the black to kind of take over along the edges, receding the object into the background a little bit more. And now again, we're just going to get full white on bloom, and it doesn't have to be as much as the Portrait Studio models, but it's just enough that it's going to behave like a reflective material. So remember, metallic comes first, then gold happens, meaning that you have to understand metallic as a texture before you can understand gold as a texture. So this is with the bloom, and again, it doesn't have to be as much as we added. I like to drop down levels like kind of all the way and then go back to 0 and see where I was. And it almost always is disappointing because I feel like I could have had so much better saturation, and this whole time I was working with washed out colors and I had no idea. So levels, I know it's a lot, but sometimes I just drop them down all the way here. Look at it for a little bit. I know it looks burnt, but I do this on purpose to give myself perspective. So I didn't like where it was. I like when it's just there. And then maybe reduce saturation a little bit. There's no rhyme or reason behind any of the detail I'm doing. It only looks right because I remember the behavior of gold in general. But let's take a look at the before and after, just a quick before and after. So we have where it was before, excessive use of the line. Obviously, you have the right colors. You have a good idea of what you're supposed to be doing theoretically. But after, we have a lot more of the actual physical presence of gold, which is that bloom, which is that saturation line, which is the sheen, which is the lack of the line, and the ridges that reflect surfaces. The kind of reflective surfaces, which are the ridges, which is what we see in all of these references. These references were built with Portrait Studio, by the way, which is available on my store at Istebrak.com. If you guys learned something today and you want to give back, please consider joining as a $1 patron. So if you go to Istebrak.com and you click on the subreddit icon right here, it'll take you to the subreddit. And this is where I have the Let's Talk About Textures post. I'll be expanding this list, but for right now, you have metallic surfaces, hair, clouds, and fabric and clothing. So this is going to be hair, clouds, and fabric and clothing is going to hopefully occupy all of next week and the week after that. Hair is something you guys have been looking forward to for a while. I'm having a lot of fun with this texture series. It really is very, very fun. Because it's just going to boost your ability to draw anything. If you learn gold for rocks, you're going to learn it for flats like silk and gold or hair or anything that has a unique saturation line. We're going to talk about precious rocks as well, subsurface scattering, jade. Jade and ice are very, very similar. We're going to be looking at that for the texture series. Study all textures and materials, please. It's going to really boost the class. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.